Well, with few exceptions, I'd say about 80% of what I consider combat actions, not all of them were during war, just saying because we're always doing things as Pete knows. And Blaine knows too. I mean, we've done things that were combat, but not officially during war. 80% were probably conducted through a task force system, right? I mean, we've really kind of fought. We fight in some form of task force, not as a combatant command, I think, in most instances. Task Force Horn of Africa, Task Force Horn of
Yeah,
Africa,
JTF Hoa and et cetera, et
yeah,
cetera, et
all the
cetera.
other stuff, with like Jadafeast, as I mentioned earlier, things like that. So I'm not surprised. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Well, but the other thing I want to hit before we leave the whole Quantico thing is the whole idea, and I'm going to go to Blaine with this first because I think he's had the most direct experience being a flag officer. How do you think today's flags? You've mentioned on the air, so we're not saying anything that's not already been said in some form. The Marshall confab right before the beginning of World War II, where General Marshall, George C. Marshall, called in the Army guys, not the Navy guys. Just saying, Pete, you guys were, you had uh, Admiral King, who did his own version of what Marshall did,
But in a
making
much
some.
less pleasant way.
Yeah, I was going to say, for those who want to study some really excellent history, look at how they picked Nimitz out of,
Yeah.
I think, pretty much. I don't think obscurity is the right word because they always respected him, but very few naval officers go on after grounding a ship. Just saying, to become the guy that actually wins the war in the Pacific. And Douglas MacArthur, for the record, is way overrated. Just saying, right? I mean, I think let's all agree that Doug out Doug. He had his moments, but he didn't win the Pacific War, right, Pete? Can I get
I would agree. I would agree.
amen on that?
I would agree.
Okay, thank you. Right, Blaine?
No, I agree with that, but I think that MacArthur, if he made one correct decision that was essential to the success in Asia, at least from an Army Air Corps standpoint, he reached out in the early hours of the war to rabble rouser and Flying Tiger boss Claire Chennault.
Claire Chennault, yeah,
And what he said was, look, you're having success with your tactics like nobody else in the entire U.S. military is having
exactly.
against the Japanese. So, I'll tell you what, I will send you spare parts for P-40s because the Curtiss Aircraft Corporation through Bill Pauley has cut you off. And in turn, I would like you to send me some advisors to go teach fighter tactics to the Marine Corps and our Army aviators out here. So the guy who led that charge was from my hometown here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, Major Pappy Boyington, who was given the rank of major and took the Black
Oh
Sheep
yeah,
Squadron.
yeah.
But it was those tactics from a guy that we drummed out of the Army Air Corps because he wasn't a bomber Nazi, and decided that pursuit aircraft were rather important and you should fly them this way, not the way we flew them under Eddie Rickenbacker's time. And so that's what I thought. The air war went really in MacArthur's way, but had MacArthur not cut that deal with Chennault, he would have never been the benefactor of all
Oh,
of
I
those
get.
that
No,
happened.
I'm not saying that MacArthur didn't have his moments. That's clearly one of them. But and I don't want to go down this path because we could talk all night about
Yeah,
this,
we,
and I
we
can
want to
list
talk World
things.
War II history. I'm in, maybe.
So, well, Blaine, I think we can both agree, and I think Pete would jump in on this. It was horrible what the bomber mafia did to the bombers in Europe because they somehow thought that making B-17s prickly with all sorts of weapons would be all they need. They didn't need to actually
25,000
plan.
dead because of
Didn't need to plan for
Emilio
actually
Doohay.
drop tanks on
Yeah,
P-47s to
yeah,
escort the damn things into Germany.
yeah.
No, it's like,
8th Air
oh no,
Force,
no, we'll be
25,000
fine.
dead. Yeah, 25,000 dead.
It,
Thanks, General LeMay. And Emilio Doohay is what convinced
Oh,
the ACTS school in Montgomery, Alabama, that all you needed was a battle plane and everything was going to be just fine.
right. If I could
insane.
just throw in just 5 cents on worth on Pappy Boyington, which was actually worth a whole lot more. But that television show, which I enjoyed the heck out of,
So did I.
It's a great
that
show. I
television
used to watch as a kid.
show
Yeah.
actually did him a disservice because as
Yeah.
much as Pappy Boyington was a great pilot, and he was a great pilot, his real contribution was not what he personally did. His real contribution was that he knew how to organize
Yes.
and train and lead, and he
Yes.
created a whole posse of these really competent pilots who
Yeah.
who also learned how to organize and lead,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
that multiplying effect was absolutely tremendous
Yeah. He
across all
franchised the
submarines.
Flying Tigers, is what he
Right.
did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that sort of is missed whenever people talk about him. This guy was a phenomenally capable leader, and it was so much more. As much as he was a remarkable pilot, it was so much more than his piloting
So
skills.
I'm gonna call an audible here, and I'll talk to Chris offline. But we need to get John Parshall in, the historian, and talk about this because I think John would back us up on a lot of this stuff.